If you want to stay in Grasshopper and then try to create a pattern on this surface, then you can use the orient to grid component. It's going to ask you for a grid. So we created a grid. I'm going to just use the east wall right now. And it says pattern objects. So over here, let me come out of the perspective view into my top view. Let me just hide that for a second. In the corner, I've drawn a 20 by 20 cell, which is the size of the cell I designated in Grasshopper. And I've drawn this pinwheel pattern as a curve here. So I'm just gonna double click on Grasshopper and type curve and connect it to pattern objects. And then it's going to ask me to set one curve or multiple curves. In this case, it's multiple curves. So I'm gonna select both this and this curve. Then it's going to turn green, and then it has enough information. Let me come out of this now. And then as you can see, it has some issues here. So it has a tendency to connect what you see like this in a zigzag way. So to troubleshoot that, I'm going to double click and put it into boundary surface first. And then that's simply going to create a surface in between that to join the two curves. Then, as you can see, now it doesn't have that problem anymore, because it's sort of wrapping around like that. And so that's the way I'm troubleshooting it. And then now it's created a surface. I can then go on and extrude this base. The direction is the X. So I'm going to add a vector here in the X direction. So then I'm going to add a slider of integers from 1 to 50. I'm roughly going to give this maybe 40 and connect it to the direction. So I'm trying to extrude by 40. So let me just bake this from Grasshopper into Rhino. So let's bake. I'm gonna move it here. Arctic. Let me zoom in and try to get a look at the surface. Minimize that window. So if you can tell, they're not overlapping each other. So I can go into Grasshopper and change the script, or I could actually use the paneling tools in Rhino. So another option is to extrude here, extrude curves. So this one and this one. I said 40, so let's go 40. Delete input, no. Both sides, no. Direction solid, yes. Okay. PT panel 3D custom. Select first bounding point, second bounding point, no surfaces, select object, this object. And then it's showing me what it's going to lay out. I want it to overlap like this. So this is what it did in PT Orient to Grid in Grasshopper, but I want it to overlap so it touches. So I made the square 20 by 20, so it would overlap. So I'm going to do that. And then it doesn't matter the height really, because it'll move it depending on the grid distance anyways. So now that matches my overlap, so I can create a joint there. Then press enter. I'm going to come out of perspective so I can see it. Then I'm going to move it to compare with the orient to grid. Okay. So it did overlap it. So this is more what I'm looking for and not that. And I think it's quite well achieved in Rhino in the paneling tools.